This week we're going to be talking about Romans chapter 14. And the big topic here is doubtful issues. And I think part of the reason why this topic is coming up is I think a big theme all the way through the book of Romans is actually the theme of unity. Paul wants Jews and Gentiles to be unified. He wants people not to be passing judgment and causing divisions on doubtful issues that it's not completely clear what the right answer is. Maybe it's issues of minor importance. He wants them to be unified around the gospel, to be using their spiritual gifts together in a unified way, so that they're going to be able to further the mission of spreading the gospel to the ends of the earth. And so this is really an important passage, and it's important because unity is important. And one of the things that can really sap our strength as a church, can cause churches to split, or cause them to just be very ineffective because they get bogged down on these sorts of minor issues, is a failure to really embrace and live out what Paul talks about in Romans 14. So I think the idea with doubtful issues or disputable issues is that there are some issues where it isn't clear from Scripture exactly what the right answer is, right? There's room for interpretation, which isn't to say you can't have an opinion about whether one interpretation is more likely than another, maybe even quite a bit more likely than another. But there's still room for disagreement. And so one of the things that causes real problems is when we take some of these kinds of issues and we start elevating them and treating them as if they were issues of major importance, central to the gospel, right? So there are some issues about which we are supposed to stand firm and not give an inch, right? If the issue is the centrality and uniqueness of Jesus Christ and his gospel for the salvation of the world, right? We can't give on that. We can't compromise on that. But in Paul's day, there were lots of issues about, sacrificing food to idols and what kinds of food you were allowed to eat and not eat, that were causing significant divisions within the Christian community. And we don't have the same issues, but we have our own versions of those issues today. And, one of the things that's ironic is over the years when we've taught on this type of passage, ironically enough, you can almost expect that there are going to be a few connection groups where there are people who get mad. And they're going to get mad because there's some issue that they want to pick fights about that we say as a church, we actually don't want to be picking fights with people about that, right? So some people want to pick fights about the age of the earth. Some people want to pick fights about exactly how you interpret the book of Revelation and eschatology and things like that, the details of how exactly God's sovereignty and free will fit together, whether it's okay to be a Democrat. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of things where some people feel passionately that the church cannot allow whatever position they disagree with inside the walls of the building. And on those and other kinds of issues, we have decided, you know what? The Bible isn't so clear on that we want to make that the kind of thing where we're causing division and pushing people out. We want to stick to things that are very clear, and especially things that are central to the gospel itself, because we've been seeing all the way through the book of Romans that the gospel is the center out of which everything flows. So what does this start looking like in practice? Well, I think Paul gives us a very helpful principle, and it shouldn't surprise us given what we've been seeing so far in chapters 12 and 13. The principle is love, right? You have freedom, right? There are a number of cases where the scriptures do give us freedom to do this or to do that, to eat or to not eat. And what Paul wants us to do is to say, on the one hand, you have freedom, but your freedom is always subject to the law of love. Remember, Jeff talked about this from chapter 13. This is the one debt we never pay off. This is the one command we never get out from under. That is the command to love each other. So when I'm trying to decide whether to eat something or not eat something, to watch something or not watch something, I have to decide what is the most loving thing I can do toward other people, right? And toward God to honor him. And let that, rather than what my own preference is, the desire to sort of flaunt my freedom in front of other people, all of those are bad reasons, right? Love needs to be the principle that guides us. And so I think this is going to be a great opportunity for you to ask people in your group to wrestle with what are the areas where you struggle with being judgmental, right? Over over things that aren't of major importance or things that aren't central to the scriptures, right? There's a lot of decisions we as a church have to make where we just have to make a decision, and there isn't a specific Bible verse to say Cornerstone will do A or B or C. We just have to try in wisdom to make the best decision we can, right? And so causing disputes and divisions over those sorts of things is contrary, I think, to the spirit of this passage. You can also ask people, are there areas in your life where you have freedom, where you could use that freedom differently in a way that would be more loving toward other people God has placed around you in your life?